Yes.
I appreciate that, sir.
That was for your benefit, Katie. I didn't want this strange, very 1984's voice creeping out,
Did give me a palpitation yesterday, I won't lie.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought, well, let's not go there again, Right. Right. Okay. So let's get your first thoughts here and reactions to this text. Okay. About how the issue of, or the theme of power has been handled here by the writer. Abby, if I could come to you first, please.
Okay, so I think power is presented in both a learning of new knowledge and a complete lack of knowledge. There's a lot of uncertain language used, like something or like is used a lot, or a bit like a rainstorm, for example.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Like that. Okay. Oops. Okay, Gabe, what about you? What did you notice?
I thought there was quite a big range of almost like contradiction. I don't really know how to describe it. It was like one time she had the power, the next time she didn't. The one time the man was in pain, the next time he wasn't. It was like constant. I didn't know how to describe it. I don't know the word, but it's like
Yeah, so I mean, you can think of, a good point you're making there, Gabe. I mean, if you think about it, so 1 minute she's got power, and the next then it seems to have disappeared. So what could that be saying about the nature of power?
It's changeable.
Yeah, changeable, and what else?
Unpredictable.
Unpredictable. Yeah. And I'm thinking as well, you can maybe think about it as being as transitory as well. You've got it for a period of time, but it's not consistent. It's not permanent. Maybe that idea. Okay. Katie, how about you?
There's a sense of irony to the whole, like, because it's a little girl, or suppose, like, she's portrayed as like this little young girl, but she's stood in front of her mother trying to protect her. There's like a man reaching for her, and she attacks, and she has the upper hand, and like she becomes the predator by the end. She's taking the step forward, he's taking a step back. There's a complete switch in the sort of relationship.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, we've got that as well. Yeah, and so we've got that. You see that the child becoming the predator as well. Okay, let's begin to sort of track our way through it now. Now, if we're looking at that first opening paragraph there, he reaches for her with one hand, the knife in the other. She gets ready to kick him or punch him, but instinct tells her a new thing. She grabs his wrist, she twists something quite deep inside her chest, as if she'd always known how to do it. He tries to wriggle out of her grip, but it's too late. Anything that we can think about there that we can begin to look at, and from an AO2 perspective, I think all the way through we're looking at this, what could we identify from an AO2 perspective?
I like the use of the word wriggle, because it's quite ironic that a big man is trying to wriggle like a little worm or something. Like,
yeah, good. Yeah, hang on, let's get my highlighter. Sorry.
Oh, highlighter.
Yeah, what did you think I said?
It cut out and all we heard was lighter.
Oh, you think lockdown's got me? I've suddenly taken up, No. As you can see, and I didn't bother going for my highlighter. I went for an arrow instead. But yeah, that use of wriggle. Yeah, what image do you get from wriggle?
Helplessness. Weakness.
Yeah,
or
good.
If you can hear any children woofing like dogs beneath me, as in downstairs. not.
What?
Like,
What was that? That
There's-
came from nowhere.
sorry, there's just strange sounds radiating throughout the house at the moment.
Okay, rest assured, Abby, we haven't heard any of them.
I was just thinking either she thinks she's saying or I'm having a stroke. I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
Welcome to the Hughes household.
yeah, I think lockdown is beginning to get to us all now. That took a surreal turn, didn't it? Yeah. Did you hear anything, Katie?
No.
See, now Katie would be first to let us know, wouldn't she? Because she's very sensitive to strange noises. Yeah. So right, so we'll get the wriggle. Wriggle as what? Who would you normally apply wriggle to? What would you apply wriggle to?
A baby.
Yeah, I mean, again, it is a small childlike, isn't it?
I was going to say a worm, and I felt so
yes,
stupid.
yeah, no, exactly the same sort of thing. And this ties in with Abby, Katie's point about the irony of the kind of role reversal here, because it's the adult that's doing the wriggling here, and so we're seeing that, Paul, that sense of power inverted. So yeah, it is that small childlike action. I think about fish as well, you know, caught in a hook, and so that predator prey type of thing, isn't it? And if we think about it here, because we've got a small child with power, is that a good thing?
No.
Not normally.
Not normally. Why not?
They've not really learned who they are or how to use it, and you know, if they have an argument with someone, they could really hurt them. It's not just going to be a shouting fit; it'll be more.
No, it wouldn't. Yeah, it's that idea. Again, it's, you know, to give that sort of immense power to a child. Yes, it has all sorts of repercussions to it. You just put in there. Yeah, so we can think about, you know, that's sort of question we ask ourselves. Good, so we've got that. Anybody want anything else from that opening paragraph?
I like how the twist inside of her to exert the power is just like the wriggle that he does to get away from it, and it's like equal but opposite. So they're both experiencing the same
Yeah,
power, but in different.
Yeah. Right, good. So we're getting that the power sort of, you know, is coursing through the body there, that sort of idea. Yeah. Yeah, so we're getting that sort of wriggle of the man. And again, isn't it? It's that idea of the power is within, isn't it? It's something from within. Okay, good. Also, we can think here as well, can't we, that other sort of maybe sort of keywords that we get quickly are that this power is instinctive here, isn't it? Within this, you know, it's her instinct is telling her a new thing. Yeah, but as we've mentioned before, there's a vagueness to it because there's a lack of understanding. And the other thing I think is quite interesting as well, and it taps into all the sort of things we've mentioned so far, is she gets ready to kick or punch him. So initially, she's going to behave like what?
A child.
Yeah, that's it. But then it moves on to something much more different, you know, consequential. When she, you know, and again, it's this sort of hidden, latent power within her. Okay, but then we have this idea about the power that's latent within. Also, Interesting as well, we've just got the use of pronouns here, isn't it? Is that he, she, no names at the moment. And then we have the next paragraph, which is a couple of sentences long. She cuppeth the lightning in her hand, she commanded it to strike. What can we say there? I think there's a few things can be made of that. If I go in reverse order this time, so we'll have Katie first. How do you react to those couple of sentences?
It gives me like religious connotations, like cuppeth and command.
Yeah, go on.
So I just think it sounds like she's almost with power of God, almost like God is giving her power or something as such.
And again, we've got that there, isn't it? And again, you can see this as well. What has the writer deliberately done with the language here?
It's become more sophisticated, so the
Do you
readers
think?
take it.
I think it's something a bit different, but carry on before I prove you wrong.
Okay. Well, maybe not sophisticated, but it's more like archaic. So
Yeah.
taken away from the image of a child, it's more a godlike
Yeah,
power.
that's it. So we've got it archaic, and again, as I say, I've said to you a few times, all of you sort of think, sometimes you just go for the obvious as well. You don't think too deeply here. But where would you expect to find that sort of language? What text do you think you'd be reading if you read something? The lightning commandeth it to strike. What would you think you're reading?
Oh,
The Bible.
Bible, yeah.
Isn't it? It's deliberately religious, biblical language. Oops. And by using that style of language quite deliberately, make the connection. What is the writer getting the reader to recognise about this power?
It's supernatural.
One, it can be supernatural, or even more straightforwardly, if we're thinking Bible, religion, this power is given from
God.
It's a godlike power, isn't it? Godlike complex.
It reminds me of Zeus. Is it Zeus with the lightning?
Oh yeah. I mean, it does. You think of the straight, the lightning bolts, the Greek tradition as well, sort of thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But it's that idea, isn't it? Godlike power that's been given here, and it's either a divine power that's been inherited, or they themselves are that sort of divine person. Yeah. And by the way that it's phrased and framed, isn't it? She commandeth it to strike. What does this suggest?
She's in control.
Yeah, which she clearly isn't it? Because she hasn't got the faintest clue what she's doing.
Just saying, Roxy is like a power god by the end of it, though.
Is she?
Yeah, well, she is for a bit, then she has a bit of a moment, but for most of it, she's like, damn, that girl's got power.
Okay, not too much plot spoiling going on there. Thank you. I was going to ask, how does it develop? So do all women have this power?
Yeah, they can set it off in each other. So they can, like, they share the power, and then it becomes like an international sort of issue. And then all the men try and kill all the women because they don't like the fact that women have power. So then they try, like, women are getting locked in concentration camps and things like that because they don't want them to be powerful.
That took a bit of a misogynistic turn, didn't it?
Yeah, basically.
Let's kill all the women. It's a bit short-termism, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very, like, but then, like, because women, like a lot in like Asian countries where women are really, really suppressed, they rise up in those kind of countries more than anywhere else. You see it. And then in America, they're like trying to control the powers and all sorts. Like, you can imagine Trump in America with this something.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, but I mean, interesting. So I do think I'm going to have to read this at some point, sort of thing, because I'm intrigued at how men could then begin to lock them up because of this power. But it's also a bit like, I don't know if any of you read this, the Patrick Ness Chaos trilogy walking. It's gone into sort of similar kind of territory there. and about this sort of gender divide between men and women, and who has power and who doesn't have power. In that whole trilogy, it's that we're in a different planet. It kind of it's recognisably Earth, but the human races had to leave Earth and colonise another planet because it's destroyed Earth, sort of thing. And this is where they're kind of pitched up. And on this planet, the males appear to inherit a disease. It doesn't affect women. It doesn't impact women. And this disease is that men can hear each other's thoughts. They're totally unfiltered, and it's just called the noise. And men have to try and learn to live with this, because they don't just hear like one voice. They hear, so if you're living in a town, you would hear all the thoughts of every man that's within, a sort of 5-10 mile radius. And obviously clearly it drives some of them insane, learning how to cope with it. But then they begin to recognise that women don't have this issue, that because they can't hear the female thoughts. It's always just the male thoughts that they hear. And then so they begin to create these settlements where women have to go and live in different parts of it, and it begins to break down, and it runs over the whole 3 books. It's really, really good. But again, it's this whole idea about this sort of gender divide and power being within 2 groups here, because it starts off where males look to be the aggressors and are terrible, but by midway through you can see that there's some unpalatable female powerful leaders as well from the other side, and then you've got the indigenous population who get caught in the crossfire between these 2, male and female. But it's really a good read. But it's going to kind of familiar territory, as you said here, especially with the concentration camps, because in that book, in Patrick Ness books, basically what he does is he sort of has all the women being branded and banded, a bit like the whole Nazi thing. And it's that idea of to try and control them and whatnot. So it seems a sort of familiar territory as well.
Yeah, the concentration camps sort of form because one woman overthrows a government and becomes like queen, and then all the male-dominated countries around her try and suppress her female-run country. So they end up with like basically refugees that become predominantly women, because men are fearful that their women will then try and overthrow their government because they've seen it happen. And you can imagine like politics of war.
Yeah, no, sounds quite intriguing. Yeah, good. But yeah, it's this idea about we went from the suggestion of divine power, and it's all this idea that that Roxy herself is in control, where clearly she isn't. But again, all that's been done. Okay, so then it moves on. There's a crackling ash and it sounds like a paper snapper. She can smell something a bit like a rainstorm and a bit like burning hair. Taste welling under her tongue is a bitter oranges. The short man is on the floor. He's making a crooning wordless cry. His hand is clenching and unclenching. There's a long red scar running up from his arm, from his wrist. She can see it even under the blonde hairs. It's scarlet, patterned like a fern, leaves and tendrils, budlets and branches. Her mother's mouth is open. She's staring. Her tears are still falling. Anybody have any annotations from that paragraph that they'd like to share? And if not, what do we want to do now? Because I think there's some again, if we think about this power here, what is kind of been suggested here in this part of the extract about power?
She's a bit like Mother Nature, because it's bringing in like ash and rainstorms and burning and
and so we're getting here, aren't we, this idea that the power that she has it's like a force of nature. Yeah, as you say, we've got the rainstorm, and then later on, haven't we got the natural imagery? She sees the scar, a bit like a fern, leaves, tendrils, budlets. Yeah, good. So we can begin to think, maybe this is what the writer is beginning to get exploring here. Okay. Anything else? What about the impact? I'm looking here. He's making a crooning, wordless cry. Hand is clenching, unclenching.
Reminds me of a baby.
Oh, why?
Well, like when a baby cries, it's just that monotonous sort of screaming noise that doesn't really necessarily have any like cause or anything. And then clenching and having like a tantrum, kind of like a whole body sort of having a fit.
Yeah, I can go with that. Good. If it's that kind of wordless cry, it's crooning. What, the adult here, what's the adult almost not able to do at this point then when under this power? Any ideas? No.
No.
Well, they're not able to combat it in even just the simplest form of speaking against it. They're completely submitted to the power.
Good. Yeah, that idea of even through voice they can't. And again, it's all consuming, isn't it? It just controls everything here, and it's just that kind of simple motor response of the clenching and unclenching the hand, and then all they can do is just watch the progress, isn't it, of this sort of poison, whatever, up through the body. Okay. And then we've got Roxy tugs at her mum's arm. That idea of tugging at her mum's arm, that image create anything in your mind?
It's like that little girl returning to who she should be in society.
Yeah, good. It is, isn't it? It's that return to sort of a childlike state. Again, it's a normal kind of, it's the sort of thing that a child does to get the parents' attention. Okay, so that returned to the childlike behaviour there, and she's shocked and slow, and her mouth is still saying "run, run." Roxy doesn't know what she's done, but she knows when you're fighting someone stronger than you, and they're down, you get out. And again, those sort of childlike reactions, isn't it? That kind of fight or flight sort of situation. And interesting that she says, she sees that she's fighting somebody stronger, doesn't she? When she's just shown how she's reduced that man to being incapable, but she still recognises almost that sort of normal status of how we'd expect to see power within this kind of relationship here. That it's the adult; they should be in control. They should be more powerful. And then we've got the short man. This one again, retaking control, isn't it? Oh no, you don't. But at the same time, he's wary, pulling himself to his feet, limping between them and the door. There's one hand that hangs dead by his side, but the other's holding the knife. And then Roxy remembers what it felt like to do the thing, whatever it was, and she pulls her mum behind her. That's the point there, obviously, that Kate was making earlier on. We're getting that kind of role reversal here. Power is another sign that power is inverted. Yeah. That's naturally what the parent should do for the child. But here it's the child doing it for the parent. Okay. And then if we think about language as well, look at the way that the writer has the man referring to Roxy. What you got there, girly? How can that be exploring this theme of power?
It's very demeaning,
isn't it? Spot on. And what else about that phrase, girly? What else does that do? It's demeaning, and what else is it doing?
patronizing.
Yeah, patronizing. Anything else? Anything else? Oops.
It returns the expected power roles.
Yeah, we're getting that as well. Oops. Oops. So we've got that sort of demeaning, patronizing. And again, it's that infantilisation. Again, you can think about that as well. What age is Roxy meant to be at this point, Katie? Can you remember?
I'm not sure. By the end of it, she's in her early 20s, so
yeah,
I think she's under 10 or around 10
yeah.
something.
But I mean, but doing that, girly, picking up obviously what Gabe's saying about the insult is demeaning, patronising, that thing. But again, we can think about that sort of infantilisation. I mean, she's just displayed great power to this man. She's sort of basically destroyed one hand, sort of one arm on his body, sort of thing. But again, it's about, as you say, it's about through language. It's about sort of saying, look, I'm the adult. I'm the one that's got the power. I'm the one that's got control. That idea of blocking the door as well, that sort of thing. Okay. And then again, so he refers to her as girly, and then look at the way that Roxy speaks in response to that. Get out of the way, says Roxy. You want another taste. Does that sound like a child speaking? No. What we've got here again is that kind of adult style of language that is being used by the character as well. And straight away we can see it has that impact, doesn't it? Because Tony steps back a couple of paces immediately. So that again highlights, her power over him. He's wary, clearly wary of her. Okay. And then he's cautious, he's looking to see if she's getting behind her back. You dropped it, didn't you, little girl? And again, a slight change rather than girly. Little girl. It's aging her a little bit. And so again, you can see with that change from girly to little girl, that there is that sense of respect, and that he knows that he's got to be wary here, because of the power that she's used so far on him.
Intense piano.
Oh yes, it matches the power extract, does it not?
It really does.
So it's that idea, isn't it? Just that subtle change in language. It can show that he is, as a character. Yeah, Tony is recognising he needs to be a little bit careful for here, because he doesn't know it just as well. She doesn't know. It's that idea of the same thing that could happen to him again. And then just to begin to get to the end of the lesson, she remembers the way it felt, the twist, the explosion outward, and that sort of, again, it's that idea, the explosion outward, all suggesting what about this power? An explosion outward. What does that suggest? What do you think? Just go for the obvious here. If the explosion is outward, where is the seat of the explosion?
Within her.
It's within, isn't it? So that sense that the power is within. And if it's an explosion, what does it suggest about this power at the moment?
Not controlled.
Yeah, not controlled, indiscriminate. Lots of collateral damage could be expected here, all because she's got this, and she's learning how to use it. But it's not been fine-tuned yet. It's not a well-honed sort of skill. When it goes, it just goes, and it'll take, it can cause untold devastation, that sort of thing. And then, again, as we've mentioned earlier on, that sort of predatory behaviour, taking a step towards Tony, stands the ground, she takes another, and again, you can see the doubt in his mind, it crosses his mind. So here, when she takes a step forward, Tony standing his ground, what sort of power is being explored here? Is it physical or is it something else?
More psychological, because she's not actually doing anything here.
Yeah, that's it. It's mind games, isn't it? That he's doing. Again, when she takes that second step, he looks there. Good. Yeah. Okay. Right. Boom. Well done. Well, with a minute to spare, he endeth the lesson. Getting all biblical. Okay. Thank you. And
Thank you.
almost another week done. Week 4 almost done.
Oh gosh.
One more week, and then make it 2 weeks, but we can all get a break.
I'm so ready.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. I'll share that PowerPoint as well at lunchtime or whatever, just so that you've all got access to it, so
Yes, please.
your options are tomorrow.
I'm not keeping my hopes up for Mr. Phillips.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend, all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and see you next week.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.